People, gather around, gather around. We have another task on our hands, and we need to figure this out. So, it's good to, when you're learning new technologies. It's always good to create scenarios. It helps you absorb knowledge better and retain information better. So just you could create really simple, you know, um, real world scenarios. Things you could be required to do, like in real world setting. So what is the scenario here this time? So on our server, let's assume we have a web server running. The disk space is running low, and we definitely do not need that. So the web server doesn't crash. So the task is, they want us to go into. Oh, okay. The var partition is filling up on the web server system. You need to check the disk usage, clear logs, and mount a new 10 GB disk on data. Okay, cool. So the var directory is where um things such as that are not consistent, such as logs, things that change all the time, such as logs is a perfect example. Are things that you would usually find in the var directory. And now it says that partition is filling up on the web server, and we need to check the disk usage first of all, so we know what's running. And clear the logs and mount a new 10 gigabits disk on data. Okay, cool. So we have to create data as well. Okay, so earlier, oh, my first video, this is another video. So, I'd mentioned, I have on my previous video, I mentioned I have 5 hard disks running on my virtual box, pretty small ones. So we already have a disk. So we just have to mount it. It also says we need to make it permanent. Okay, we could give that a go as well. Okay, so where do we begin? Let's see. What was the first thing? I feel really sick. I should actually be in bed. Yeah. So I sound really horrible. I know it. So first of all, let's check the disk usage. So on this server, we want to see what the disk usage is, because first of all, the scenario is that it is running low. So let's see what we have. But keep in mind, this is completely empty because I just built this virtual machine like an hour ago. So it's just all, make believe, just scenario based. So let's assume this is our web server, and we can see what is running on here. So we have a disk here, SDA2. The size is 20 gig. What we are using currently is 5.5 gig, so we have like 15 gig left. Use 30% and is mounted on root. So this is all make believe, but let's assume that okay, this is running low, right? Something we could also do is we could show we could show the resource each folder is consuming, and we could do that by using do and sh, which is for summary, and the h to make it human readable, and we could go into the var directory and use. Oh, now this just shows you, oh, it says cannot read directory. Okay, cool. Cool. So we are in the var directory, and we can see that the backup currently consumes 4 kilobytes. The cache is 132 megabytes. So not a lot is going on here. Like I said, I just built this. So yeah, so that's how you check what each each folder consumes. You could actually see what resource it consumes, right? So what does it want us to do next? It wants us to okay, clear the log file. So let's assume the log is filled and we want to clear it. The web server, the log is filled, although this is not currently filled, but we want to clear it. So how do you go about doing that? You could sudo journal ctl vacuum time. let's say equals 6 days. Cool. So this is going to clear whatever the, the journals in the var directory is going to clear it that has accumulated in the last 6 days. So basically it frees up space in the system, and it just deletes certain system logs basically, and to keep it very simple. That was created in the last 6 days, but again, this was built like 2 hours ago. So it has freed 0 bytes, it has freed 0 bytes. Again, there's nothing on there or make believe. So let's assume we have cleared system logs that had accumulated in the last 6 days. So that must have freed up some space on the web server. So what does it want us to do next? It wants us to create a partition on the disk. Okay. So first, I've showed you the disk here. These are the hard disks. These are the hard disks that I have put on my virtual machine for the Ubuntu server. But in the server, we could actually look at those disks using LSBLK. So LSBLK shows us each disk. Like I said, we have 5 disks. I can't, my cursor doesn't appear on here, but we have SDA, we have SDB, we have SDC, we have SDD, SDE. That makes it 5 hard disks. So what we want to do is create a partition. So on the first hard disk, we have 20 gig. On the second hard disk, SDBB, SD, if I can speak, SDB, we have 3 gig, and SDC downwards like that as our hard disk. So next we want to partition. Let's partition SDB, right? So you say sudo fdisk dev SDB, right? Or do we just partition SD? Let's partition SD because we can. So what do we have here? So it says changes will remain in memory until you decide to write them. So whatever changes you make, remember to write them. Right. So we have a bunch of options here. So if you press M and press Enter, it gives you several options. What we are looking for is to add a new partition. Okay. Yep. That's N here. So N, you come down here and type N, and this gives you the option to create a new partition. So again, I'm not going into all of this. So let's just make this primary. Let's say one. We leave this blank. Let's use 200. Let's say 200, right? 200 megabytes. Just for fun of it. Um, okay, so it says created a new partition, and we could that we're forgetting to write. Always remember to write. Now that has been now that has been written, and we can come out of this and check this again using USB. Okay, we could just barrel down. What did we just partition? I should really be in bed. So SDE is what we just partitioned. So if you look at the last hard disk, that shows that it has been partitioned. So usually after creating a partition, you have to create a file system. That is how it goes. Right? Okay, I didn't include that here. But you have to create a file system. So how do you do that? You do sudo make file system, right? What am I typing? To make file system ext. And we are using SD hard disk. So we are currently creating a file system on this hard disk. Cool. Found the DOS partition table on it. Yes, we want to proceed. And yep, done. Yep. So now we have created a partition on that disk. So we have created a file system on that disk. Again, I should be in bed. So right, so we've created a partition, we have created a file system. Now I think we have to mount that we have to mount this hard disk now. So first of all, we're going to make a directory that we will mount the hard disk on. So you do that by doing sudo make there, let's say data. So I'm making a directory called data, and that's where we are going to mount our hard disk. So you can mount your hard disk using sudo mount there, because that is where our hard disk resides, and we're mounting sde to data, which is the directory we created earlier. So that is done. You can use SBLK to look at it again. And if you see the SDE hard disk, it's currently partitioned and mounted on the data directory, right? So we could also make this permanent. So by permanent, it means each time the system reboots, um, the file system remains, your hard disk remains partitioned, everything that you just configured remains permanent. So there are two ways you can do this. You can do this going into the file and changing the configuration, or you could actually just echo it, and that will make it stay permanently. So that you could do that. If I could type, for God's sake. This would be the last video I do today. So we're changing the configuration now. So we're doing SDE, and that's on data, file system defaults. 0. I think I'm just going to